Hey guys, this is YNB from X Trades. I'm doing a short video. This video is dedicated to my family friend Carol, who ideally this is explaining to her why she should have sold covered calls when I told her to. We're going to be centering this video around Apple. We're going to do a small lesson as far as when you can sell covered calls on stocks like Apple using one simple indicator, Bollinger Bands. As you can see, Apple is one of those slow, grindy stocks. This is a weekly chart, meaning that every one of these candles represents 1 week worth of time. And this is like a great macro view perspective when you're looking at a stock over a year's time frame or years. And using the very simple indicator of Bollinger Bands, you can see that any time that Apple has gone outside of these Bollinger Bands, it doesn't take long for it to get smacked back down, and that these are ideal times to sell calls against your shares. My friend Carol has 1,100 shares of Apple and has never sold a call against her shares. And even though she's up massively, she could have been getting more money throughout the year and had protected her equity during downtimes and basically made her life a little less stressful, knowing that she's making at least some money on these downward movements. A covered call is basically selling the bet to someone who is betting that the stock will go up. And using this very simple indicator, you have a high chance of that bet expiring worthless. The time that I told her to sell her covered call was in the December 6th week, with expiration of 12/17, looking at about the 185 call. When I told her about it, I told her to sell half the calls at like $60 per share. $60 per option. Wait till next week to see if the stock had gapped up again. And so then she can sell the rest of hers for 185. Because as you can see throughout the year, whenever Apple had gone outside of these Bollinger Bands, it doesn't take too long for it to get smacked back down. Because Apple is a giant company. It's a $2 trillion company. It has 16 billion shares. This isn't a stock that can maintain these giant movements, these parabolic movements. And as you can see, every time it pokes out, it gets smacked down. And it definitely got smacked down in this time frame. So we can actually chart the option premium, and we can over here in TOS. And it's not going to make a lot of sense. We're just going to use this time frame. And unfortunately, this is the 12/23 expiration. But I do remember the premiums for the 12/17, and we're just using this as a chart as an example. Over here you can see that the premium on that Friday for the 185 call for the 12/23 expiration ended up being 2 premium, and on that one day it was about 60.60. So the plan was to sell half of the covered calls here for 0.60, and then to see next week if Apple got a little more steam, and it did. And then if it does, those option premiums would have been 100, would have been much higher for that week. But using proper technical analysis and this one simple indicator, Bollinger Bands, you can see that 185 was a very safe call to sell against your shares. Then that next Monday, the premiums went up to about 305, which would have represented like a 33% increase in the calls to be sold. And so you would have gone another 1, let's say, per premium. So 0.60 times 5 would have been the plan. You'd have gotten $300. And then another 6 times 1 equals 6. That would have been $600. You were looking at something around $900 if you stuck to that plan. And as you can see throughout the week, those premiums became worth less and less and less, and would have expired worthless by 12/17, meaning that someone had come up to you, you had sold them the option to bet that the stock was going to go to $185. At that blackjack table, at that casino table, they had given you $900 for that bet, and unfortunately, since it didn't go to 185, they lost and you got to keep $900. Now, you don't have to sell calls every week, but when you see things like this and using basic TA, you can see that these can be very profitable times. A stock like Apple doesn't often come out of these Bollinger Bands on a weekly time frame. As you can see, it's a slow grind up a lot of the times. It's a slow grind up. This is throughout the entire history of this stock, going all the way back to 2017. You see it over here. In 2015, it popped out. It goes right back in. Owning stocks like these makes it a little predictable and thus prime to be able to sell calls against. Seeing that you could have done something similar throughout the year, that could have been 9, 18, 27, 36, $3,600 a year, depending on when you sold, how you sold it, and how much people had piled into that trade. Or, depending on how skillful you are, selling it here, then here, then here, and here, etc. Hopefully that you've learned a little something. It can be just that simple. You can make money just like that. And it's an investment strategy that I can't get behind more. If you have any questions, please DM me. I'm more than happy to explain this one-on-one to you on how this works. Thank you. Go to X Trades.